next item on the agenda is agenda review. Any amendments? I have none.
I don't think so.
Hearing none others, we'll move on to correspondence, which I have none, and then public comments. Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Approval of minutes from November 5th. I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes from November 5th, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
All abstain.
Motion carries 7-1. 7-0-1, sorry. Let's see. Presentations, Franklin Central School presentation.
Hey, well, welcome everybody back to Franklin. It's so nice to have you back here. And the first time you were here, Julie had said the first time the MVSD board would come to our school, said we should do a tour. And so that's what we did the last time. And then she said after that, it could be some type of a presentation. And she said, I'd really like maybe to have some kids and some parents, so, get more people at our meetings. And so I thought, okay, what could you do? And I wanted to do something that maybe not everybody outside of Franklin knew as much about our school. And so I thought of the music program here. And I went to Jen McConnell and I said, Jen, would you like to do something at an MVSD board meeting? And she's like, sure. So they were all set 2.5 weeks ago to do something for you. And we might have a few less people here tonight because we had to reschedule. That darn snow day, but we're so glad that you guys were willing to come back to Franklin for this tonight. And I really want to thank all the parents and grandparents that are here supporting our school and our students. And so I'm just going to turn it over to Jen McConnell, who I asked the other day. I said, Jen, just when I introduce you, I just wanted to say how many years you've been here. What have you been here? 8, 9. She goes, Joyce, I've been here 16 years. And I was like, oh my gosh. Because time flies when you're having fun. And she's been an incredible asset to this school and to the Missisquoi Valley School District. And so I'm going to turn it over to her. And she's got band members here, chorus members, and she also has a presentation for you.
We have kids that are doing a lot of different things tonight. Well, not a lot, but playing in band and chorus. So they just have to set their instruments down there and come sing. So thank you so much for arranging for the meeting to be in Franklin tonight. We were pretty disappointed when it got canceled before. The kids worked really hard, so we're excited to show off our music program a little bit tonight. So, let's see, we look like a lineup. We're just going to mix it over here. Circle this way. There we go. All right, we're going to start with this is our 5th and 6th grade elective chorus. And they're going to start with a couple songs for you.
We only got room and forever let it go. Darkness, my old friend, I've come to talk to you again, because a vision softly left its seeds while I was sleeping, and the visions that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence. In restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone, neath the halo of street lamps. I turned my collar to the golden dim, but my eyes were set by the flash of the neon light that split the night and touched the sound of silence. And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. People talking without speaking, people hearing without listening, people writing songs that voices never shared, and no one dared disturb the sound of silence. Oh, say I do not know. Say when seconds answer rose. Hear my words that I might teach you. Take my hands that I might reach you. But my words like silent rainbows and echo of silence. To the neon god they made, in the silence of its morning, in the words that it once spoken, in the songs that it words of thousands of written subway walls and tenement halls,
So next we have a couple of soloists that are, I should tell you what else we're gonna do. So we have a couple solos, and then I just have a brief presentation of what our whole district has been doing for music. We've been doing a lot of work with district-wide curriculum over the last few years. So I just wanted to show you just a very quick snapshot of that. And then some of our band students are gonna play to close us out. So next up is Piper Gregory, and she is obviously playing flute, and she is going to play a song called Sonatina. And next up is Addison Gates on tenor sax, playing In the Bleak Midwinter by Joe Baptist. Ross coming up to help me with our little
One thing while Jen's getting set up, I forgot to mention is that she's in Franklin 3 days a week. So a lot gets done in 3 days a week.
I don't know if it's
I'm just
on
gonna make my way with the lights.
the projector.
No, it doesn't. It just wasn't turned on, I think. Okay, we'll give it just a minute to warm up. So, as Troy said, this is my 16th year here in Franklin, and a few years ago, the music teachers in our district, well, actually about 3 years into my teaching here, we started working on district-wide assessments that we, so we could just start to align some curriculum across the district. And then, so we started with that, just with some common assessments we were all doing. And then a few years ago, I started a master's program in Master's in Music Ed at Castleton. And for my capstone project, I decided to create a music-wide or a district-wide curriculum framework for music for Franklin Northwest and now MVSD. And so all the music teachers in our districts collaborated on it. Let's see.
There, it goes away, it's gone.
Okay.
Yep.
So this is a couple of years ago at the Dairy Parade, our band. But Ross, would you go to the first slide? So anyway, the National Core Music Standards were came out a few years after actually the Common Core in order to address kind of a more comprehensive overview of music education. So these are the National Core Music Standards that address creating, performing, responding to, and connecting to music. And so there was no work done like for district-wide curriculum with the National Core Music Standards, and no other district that I know of in the state has a curriculum like we do. And so it's been really exciting to implement it. And the next slide will show a little bit. Go ahead, Russ. This is kind of an overview. This is actually what shows up on a report card. So in snippets. So you can see we worked with Libby Bodensteel when she was our curriculum director to set some priority standards based on the National Core Music Standards, which are very comprehensive. And so we broke it down to what we decided that all kids needed to be able to do by the end of each grade. And so these are the things that we came up with, as simple as in kindergarten, uses head voice for singing, which is like their high singing voice, so that they can create a pretty tone when they sing, keeping a steady beat, and then all the way up to creating a two-part composition, which you're going to see in just a couple of minutes. Go ahead to the next slide, Ross. And there's also a spiral curriculum, which you can see here, coming from kindergarten up through 4th grade. We're talking about singing, but it's building each year on what's happened the year before. So head voice, and then they're learning to sing a simple melody on pitch, sing anything accurately on pitch, and then in 3rd and 4th grade, they start singing in multiple parts. And
It will go away.
let's see, fix it. There we go. Go to the next slide. And this is the curriculum that we use district-wide for pre-K to 2 by kind of the guru in early childhood music education, John Feierabend. And he talks about having a 30-year plan where we're teaching kids not just to sing for a concert, but how to be able to sing happy birthday at their kids' birthday parties, or you know, the national anthem, or anything like that. And so we teach them to be tuneful, beatful, to be able to keep a beat, and then also to be artful, so that music actually is expressive and means something, and we feel it, making a musical person. And then we also use conversational solfege, which begins to teach music literacy in 2nd grade. So where we're learning to read rhythms, and it all kind of happens magically, and it's wonderful. And then by the time they get to band in 4th grade, teaching them to read music is a piece of cake. And these are our numbers in Franklin for our band and chorus. We have 35 kids total between 5th and 6th grade, and you can see the numbers there. The total that we have in chorus and or band is 86% of our students, and we have been so fortunate to have Joyce be so supportive of us having band and chorus twice a week, in addition to lessons for band, and then also beginning band. You can see with our 4th graders, we have 89% of them involved, which is pretty standard and usually drops a little bit, but music is a great part of this community in the school. And this is, I'm just going to play a little snippet of each of these, but these are the compositions, some of the compositions that our 6th graders last year this was like their big project. They didn't actually perform at our spring concert last year to sing. Instead, they spent all spring creating compositions, and they had to do one in ABA form. So they took, you can see it, this one at the very top, the notes. There's kind of one section, and then it goes to a contrasting section, and then comes back to the original again. So that was their assignment, and so these are just some snippets of those. Okay, Ross, go ahead. Oh, go back. Again. Okay, now click it. It should just give it a second. It should play. Try it one time. There we go. And these are students playing this last year to record it. Like this for us. And then this is just a slightly different one. I won't do all of this one, but I'm going to click that. Give it a second. Click it again, Ross. Let's go to the next one. This one was one of my favorites. This was a kid that didn't seem particularly interested in composition, and I just loved what he came up with. So go ahead and play this for us. And that's it for that. The band just has one song to play, and then we'll let you get on. Casualty.
While Jen's getting set up with the band, there was just one thing, you guys have my report, and I hope you have a chance to read all the reports, all the good things that are happening. But I did just want to highlight one thing that was in my report while the parents and the kids are here, and that was that the Franklin spelling team represented MVSD incredibly well at the regional spelling competition, and there's a number of students that are here tonight that were in that spelling competition. And I have to tell you, going to these over many, many years, it was the closest competition that I've seen. And at the end of all the regular rounds, it was 126, 126. There was a tie, and we were at 122. And then two teams lower than us. And we had, South Burlington and some just incredible. Great performance by our students, and it just was such a nail biter. Those of you that were here, it was just everybody was on the edge of their seats. So at the end of the regular time, it was 126 for Rumney and Main Street Middle School, and we were at 122. That is a difference of 1 bonus word or 2 regular words from the entire competition. And I told the kids that was the 122 was the highest score that I've seen Franklin get over the years at that competition. It was just incredible. And something that I just found out today that you guys don't know is that the team that won that competition that day, the regional, they went on and won the state. So the team you lost to by just a few points were the winners for the entire state. So if you guys don't mind, I'd like to give the kids a minute.
No, thank you. We got the saxophone fixed. Okay. Ready? Thank you so much.
Jen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know Jay Hartman's here if he wants to do highlights, and the others are just attached, those, if people have questions kind of thing.
What's that? I thought of that.
That wasn't good.
I know.
In front of me.
Okay, so next on the agenda is MVU administration update. Jay? MVU administration update.
It's in print.
It's all in print. We can read it.
I don't want to steal the person's slide.
No, are there any?
I believe the rest are also all in print.
Absolutely, they're all there.
So we can move on to new business from Franklin Rec Department. You're up.
I can't hear you, I'm so sorry. My name is Bridget Thompson, and I apologize, I just came from work and I have no idea what you guys are out of this. We had prepared, just a little blurb. Some of you may know about us a little bit, but if you don't, we put everything in a nutshell. And we are fairly new. What are we in, 4 years, 3 years? We are supposed to be a board of 5 members. Stephanie Ho is our treasurer, vice president. And John Corners, our athletic, what do we call you, coordinator now? Okay. We've been going through a lot of changes. Something we started about, like I said, 4 years ago. We kind of got together. It was sounded like a great idea, turned into a really good idea. Because Franklin doesn't have an athletic director, and it's never really had, the budget for the athletic department, we felt that the combination of that and trying to come up with a way to improve the community and get some involvement that way, that we felt it would be a great idea to take that on. So Dawn does a lot of our coordinating of the athletics between all the schools. It's a little different for us because we're the rec department and all the other schools operate their 5th and 6th program within the school. So that is something that we're trying to improve a little bit with the neighboring towns, just so that we can all be on the same page and, have consistency and opportunities that are equal for all levels. We also do some really cool other activities that are just for school-age kids, and the biggest thing we just did recently was this summer was the chase around the lake. I don't know if you heard about that. It was our first triathlon in Franklin. It was pretty cool. We had a really good attendance for the first time ever. A lot of good compliments and a few things to improve on, but it was a great turnout. We do a lot of other recreational activities, which the whole purpose was to just collaborate and coordinate and gain access to resources so that we could give our kids in our community the opportunities that everybody else has. And I feel like it's been a huge impact. It's benefited a lot of people. We did just go live with our website. It's a MyRec platform. It is a little costly, so we kind of cut back on some costs, and it was a time savings. Well, it will be time savings. We're still learning the program, but it's been really nice to have online registrations and to get all of our programs in one centralized location. Anything to add?
We have done a few big things. Bridget mentioned the chase around the lake. We've had like a winter, we call it carnival, but basically a bunch of winter activities. We hosted here for the past, we've done it 2 years, I think. 2 or 3 years now. We have a duct tape derby, and usually we get quite a bit of participation from all kinds of towns. Friday we implemented a town Christmas tree a couple years ago, and so Fridays are tree lighting. And then next weekend we're doing a Polar Express. This will be our 3rd year doing that. And we usually get, 100 or more kids to come to that. So we've had a lot of fun, done a lot of work, and we've been pretty successful, I think.
I think this is going to be our first year, correct me if I'm wrong, we've had to go before the town each, our town meeting, we have a $15,000 budget, and that primarily pays for the director or the athletic coordinator position, but also now the part of the website. And so we're now considered alignment or not alignment, what is it?
We're a budgeted item now.
Right, so it's great, right? We still be, showcasing our things at town meeting, but we've had a lot of town support, and I guess from this board's perspective, we just want to make sure that that we're here for not just the community, but also the
athletes in the schools that, we're trying to coordinate with Swan and Maggie. And we'd like to work on, some future collaboration. We've had some, we've just had there's, everyone has their different rules and with like soccer and basketball and then giving kids access to, there's mini metro and sometimes if we're not included, that's been an issue in the past that Franklin hasn't always been included in those little bit more competitive athletic opportunities, and we've been able to get our Franklin kids in there, I think, a little bit more in the last few years, so. That's all. Do you guys have any questions for us?
I got one, of course I went here, so, I remember the pro sports was through the school. How long has it not been part of the school? How long has it been its own department?
2016.
So as soon as the school stopped doing it, you guys picked it up?
We worked with the school the first year and kind of coordinated it, and it was still run through the school, and then we took over the following year.
Did you notice it was pretty seamless? That was our goal. That was what our intent was. Yeah. So.
And by doing that, we were able to implement or allow younger kids to participate too. We have itty bitty programs now, so kids in preschool, so 3-year-olds, can now participate in all 3 of the sports that we offer year round also.
I'd just like to say they've done an outstanding job of community spirit, bringing people together, and with a lot of great events, and the lighted parade's coming up too. So certainly welcome any out-of-towners that want to participate in that as well.
It's free. Oh, that should be another thing I should let you know. So we do have a budget, but it primarily, pays for the position. But all of our programs are self-funded, so we try really hard not. That was an issue because 5th and 6th grade is usually, it's offered as a free opportunity for kids, and usually in Franklin, Missisquoi. And we do charge a very small amount, just basically covers the cost of maybe equipment and uniforms. But we've been really good about not having to raise prices. We started out very low. We're still super low compared to the other rec programs, but the programs are self-funded. So, yeah.
You just mentioned the word uniforms.
Yes.
Okay, so students who participate from Franklin School in events, in competitions, games, whatever, with other schools,
Yep.
who funds the uniforms?
So that all depends. We do have a sponsorship program that for like Little League, because Little League is outrageously expensive. But there are some sponsors that opt to sponsor a team through the t-shirts or the uniforms. But usually the uniforms are, the way that the programs are built, the majority of the uniforms and equipment are funded through the program fees, the registration fees.
And see, I've been on the Swan School Board off and on for the last, 10, 15 years. I believe we have a budget in Swanton, had a budget in Swanton. So I think it's something we really need to look at as we build our budget. If we're buying uniforms for one group of students, now that we're one school district, we need to look at that. So I'll keep bringing that up to the other board members. Not that we're trying to take and add to our budget tonight. It's not about budget, right? But I think that's something that we need to look at.
That would be a huge help.
Yeah, it'd be great if we could coordinate the 5-6 program, but if we could reduce the cost to make it more fair to the other schools, that would be wonderful.
Any other questions?
Keep up the great work. Absolutely.
Are you in the parade?
I was last year. Well, my tractor was, but
Just talking about
don't ask me last minute.
This is a commitment.
you have a week and a half to get ready.
Write that down.
Yeah, thank you for letting us be on your agenda.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Okay, on to old business, and first part is check warrants.
I have a chance with that part. Sign it right here.
Yeah, I figured.
It's part of the job, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh. Okay, warrants listed here, still in process of being signed. Total $4,680,011.65. For the month of November, covers accounts payable, payroll, and deductions.
I'll entertain a motion to accept check warrants as read.
I'll make that motion.
Second? Discussion?
It's always comforting when the finance committee makes the motion, seconds it. I thought Devin's gonna stay silent here. I don't know what's in there.
Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of accepting check warrants as read, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 8-0.
Business office is doing a good job, very good job, keeping all of this organized and consolidating everything. It's quite a challenge, dealing with what they're dealing with at the moment, so they've been a big help to me, I know when I go in there and sign.
Old business, first reading of in-district elementary transfer.
So essentially, we are just, this is, we took all the two meetings where we discussed at length, and that last draft was changed to reflect the decisions you made at that board meeting. And so we'd be looking for a motion to, if you're at, is it accept or approve the first reading of the policy?
I'm sorry, were you talking?
I did, but
You're looking for a motion.
do we usually look for a motion to approve the first reading and forewarning?
I don't remember, we made the first reading because we're not waiting.
Because we're going to warn, and we'll warn it for adoption at the next
The next
meeting.
meeting, but I think we could.
Was it warned this way, this time, by just putting it on our agenda?
No, it was, I'll let you share.
It was warned, I took the actual
Right?
policy itself and put it in several places in each town and I've asked every school to put it on their individual websites as well as the MBSD website. And I did more than just the, the
I
three.
think we should approve it then. If it took that thorough, if it went out that much, if we approve it for first reading and then it goes to the next step.
Okay.
I'm gonna make that motion.
I've still got a couple of questions.
Well, okay, well, first I'll entertain a motion to accept the first reading of the policy. Don did that, a second?
We need to open up for discussion, then I'll make that second.
Well, I need the second before we can have discussion.
I'll make the second.
All right, so we have a second with Megan, and discussion.
The section, younger siblings entering school, we give a priority in the school choice process, which is fine. I'm just wondering why we limit it to younger siblings. Why couldn't it be any siblings?
That's true.
That's a good point.
That is a good point.
That's a real good point.
And if we change that, that's not considered a major editorial, that's, that wouldn't require rewarning. And that's because that's the usual case, the older
Right,
child comes
right.
in and then the kindergartner comes in.
Yeah.
But it could be the other way around. It may be, I'm worried about my fourth grader and I want school choice for that child, and then it works so well, we decided we want the fifth grader to come. Yep.
The other one, the next one, once accepted, students do not need to reapply for continued enrollment in their school of choice. Students may remain in the transition to grade 7. My thinking, and we can deal with it however we want. My thinking was that once they made the transition, because we don't want people flip-flopping,
Correct.
then wouldn't we want to say that they can't automatically go back to the school of their town? They would be put into the regular school choice
Right. And
policy.
we put that in the procedure that,
Okay.
because we may want to tweak the process around that, but the idea is that you don't have to reapply every year.
Right.
But the board really wanted in the procedure that if I go to Highgate and then I decide the next grade I want to go to Swanton or back to where my hometown is, that you have to apply. Because the whole idea is your
Right.
home school is now your home school.
My only thinking is I want parents to realize that before they
Yeah.
switch schools with their kid, that they can't just come back whenever they want if they don't like it.
When you adopt this policy and things are put up on websites, there will be the policy and the procedure, probably have some frequently asked questions and an application process. So absolutely, we'll make sure that's clear. It's important.
Any other,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, any other discussion around the,
I just want the other board members, I know we've worked together for a while, I don't just make motions because it's something I want. I'm old school, we always made motions, second the motion, and then we had the discussion. But I've noticed over the last 50 years, boards have a lot of discussion with a motion on the floor. So if I sit here and I make a motion, and it was pretty quiet for a few seconds, and people were pondering, do they want a second it or what? It's only to get out there, so then you have discussion. So I don't want people to think, oh, he's always moving these questions like he wants to pass them. Sometimes I don't have to pass them on. So thanks for letting me explain that.
That's technically how you're supposed to do discussion.
Absolutely.
I didn't want to say it that way.
okay, any other discussion for the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor of accepting the first reading of the in-district elementary transfer policy, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 8-0.
Now, the one question that's I'm sorry, Peter, did you have something else to add?
Just wondering if we've had any public feedback. I know we had that
We
one
had
email.
one, but beyond that, no, we haven't.
Okay.
What I do want to ask you in an informal sort of straw poll kind of way is we talked about a mid-year possibility. So if the board is interested in doing that, I would need to have everything teed up to go for after you adopt the policy.
I don't know where I've been. I would say I wanted it by mid-year.
Right.
I think we made that commitment back in August that we put this on the front burner. And I think it's might have been on the front burner sometimes, and I think we've done a good job bringing it to us and bringing responding. I think if it's possible, we need to have it available for the little January. Is that what is that mid-year, January?
Is there any?
Question was, what was the administrator's opinion on a mid-year transfer?
Don't all speak at once.
You mean a mid-year adoption of this policy?
Just this year.
Just this year, because we're adopting a policy now allowing an application process for this year, mid-year.
Was that something that back in August, I couldn't hear what Don was saying, but was that something back in August that people said would likely happen? Like, was there a commitment to possibly do something mid-year already, or?
our goal was to have it done and in place by mid-year, but I don't feel that we said that we were gonna have it available for a mid-year transfer.
But there was
I think
conversation.
I would be comfortable if I had any indication through a survey, perhaps, of parents, of how many people were thinking about, would entertain this idea because of the impact of shifting class sizes and, again, going back to the kind of the first tenet is there room?
Yep.
And we wouldn't know that halfway through because we wouldn't be able to hire in response to overwhelming numbers. So it'd be, I don't know, how do you survey people without saying it's going to happen, but if it were to happen, would you be taking advantage of it? And then based on that, I think you could offer a limited window to do it, just for us to be able to control a little bit more of what's going to happen with class sizes. That's my 2 cents.
But no matter if it's mid-year or later in the year, you're still going to have the considerations that you're going to use to approve or not approve. So class size and all of those factors will be considered whether it's mid-year or end of the year.
Well, it wouldn't take effect until next school year.
In a typical, in a typical process, it would be you apply in April, people know by May, and then we have an opportunity to plan.
Moving that forward, you've got to know how many people.
Well, you would be, the procedure would be more limited in a mid-year process because staffing is what it is. So we can't adjust staffing at this point. So if there isn't capacity to move a student, let's say from Franklin to Swanton, then it's not an option. They would be part of the application process. And like you said, the first step is capacity. If we don't have the capacity right now.
And we might learn something from it. Maybe there's not a lot of interest. It could be a good trial period, and we might come back, and if capacity doesn't allow anybody to move, that tells us something to it.
Is there sufficient time to get the procedures in place? I mean, if we're going for a
They're ready.
mid-year and approve,
Well, procedures are administrative. I've shared them with you, but they don't have to go through a process the way the policy does.
I would think there'd be considerably less interest of transfers mid-year anyway than there would be, the beginning of the school year, so. I'm not saying there wouldn't be any, there might be some, but I think it would be very minimal.
I would agree. I'd be shocked if it was a large push to transfer mid-year.
Not only that, but there's not a lot of time to get that word out before any of that would need to happen. So, there could be some people miss the boat on it as well, so.
Do you feel that parents know this policy is being drafted, it's out there? Are parents aware?
I have a few that know, that have reached out.
This is never going to be a majority.
No.
No.
You're right.
I guess my question would be, and that's where I'd like the principals to answer is what impact would that have on kids to transfer in the middle of the year? What would be your opinion of that? I'm thinking that's not a great idea because transfer mid-year. I am not in.
In Franklin County, it's happening every day.
Yes, but maybe not by choice.
But it's happening every day.
Well, I agree that it's happening, but I don't think it's necessarily by choice. And would it be a good thing to do if it's because a parent wants that, and it's not necessarily, might not be the best thing for the kid to transfer in mid-year. I know I would have cared to transfer in mid-year if I was a child. I would transfer if I was an adult. I just want to stay home.
I think one other conversation too is that whole idea of how are we going to determine capacity? Because we haven't really discussed that either. Is it going to be based purely on numbers or space, personnel? So those are things that I feel we're not necessarily there Because the other thing we said last time is, you know, as we were wordsmithing, we're gonna come across like, oh, we hadn't thought about this.
Right.
There's gonna be different scenarios that might play differently, so we may never be ready, but I think those are still some important questions too. And Pierrette, with your question, I think it's good. I think many families, if they have to make a transition, try to do it at the beginning or end of the school year. As Dawn said, we get lots of, you know, families at the beginning of the month that may have to move, and some of those aren't choices, but I think sometimes the parents are trying, if they have to move or something, they're trying to do it at a different time. So they do come and go at different times, for sure.
And that's definitely a part of the policy that would start right away, is the ability for families to stay for the rest of the year and then apply to stay should they want to for April. So that's an important thing to remember, that would help with some families and stability. So I knew it was something that the board needed to discuss, and because of timing, wanted to make sure we had some direction from the board on this, whether you wanted me to prepare an application, you know, for a January process.
This is a tough one. I agree with Eric that I don't think there's going to be a mass interest in moving through mid-year, but I also don't like the idea of rolling out a policy and then trying to be up and running with it all at the same time. Especially one that's had this much debate.
Have that test the waters that much, not so quick.
Right.
See what the feedback is. And somebody may come aboard and say, yeah, I want to do it, but I kind of agree with the mid-year thing. I don't know. I don't think I would like that.
I think the only part of it that I can appreciate is what you had just mentioned, is that immediately those families who have to move can now stay in their school. Like, to me, that's a big benefit. You know, previously it was very much date dependent. But yeah, it makes me nervous to roll it out so quick.
Julie, the idea of a survey back there, administrators, is that something could happen between now and our second December meeting? And I don't mean one Thursday night, I mean the one on the 17th.
The 17th. I'm sure that we could do something, just a quick,
Just to see.
yeah.
That might be a good litmus test too, to see how much interest there really is too.
Yeah, because I think a mid-year implementation, if we're talking about 3 or 4 kids, is probably not a big deal. But
Right.
if it is some substantial number, we may want to be better prepared, so I agree.
See, I don't think it might be a lot of people. But I guess I don't, I'm not gonna make a motion, but I'd support the superintendent and staff trying to find out between now and December 17th meeting, I guess it's 17th. With an informal survey with the building administrators. How much interest is there out there?
All right.
My question is, also is if we don't feel comfortable rolling something out, what is it that we would change that exists right now? You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh yeah.
What are we going to do different between now and the time that we're ready to roll it out?
I think that this can be rolled out now. Doesn't mean we have to start doing it in January. Matter of fact, this says that we're not going to have the website and the procedures available till March 1st.
Right.
So we can have, like we talked about, when a student moves, they can still stay there because we've got this procedure, or this policy, I should say. So we could approve this and have it go forward as it's intended to start the process in March, like you were saying, April, and then by May, they'll know where their students can go to school.
Yeah, to answer your question, the difference really is because I'm applying in April for next year's school year, that allows us to make any shifts, move folks if we need to hire additional staff or shift any resources to support kids, no matter where they go to school, that we can be planful for that.
Sure,
Right.
logistically, but policy-wise.
Policy-wise, the only real difference is that, when you adopt this policy, it will go into effect, and as Peter pointed out, it'll be the March date. So you would want to make a special motion when you've decided if you wanted to do something different in the interim, which you can do as a board. And again, I think it'll be like 4 kids. But if it's 24 kids, then that's a very different scenario. And those are the kinds of things, principals are thinking about class sizes and resources every single day. It's what,
It's
so.
20 kids, we're gonna, so why do we get it now?
Well, if parents don't know about it, it's gonna be hard
Right,
to
and
figure.
I think even the survey itself or something like that will promote it a little bit and build some awareness.
Yeah.
And from schools that have done this over the past few years, there's sort of a flurry and then it settles.
Okay,
I have some next steps. Thank you, everybody,
next steps for
this.
okay.
Do you feel okay about that? Okay. No, what I meant is I feel like I have direction.
Ah, I gotcha.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
A little slow on
I'm
your take on that
clear as
one.
mud today. I'm sorry.
All right, so we're gonna, now that she has next steps for this policy, we're gonna move on to budget next steps. We've scheduled a special meeting for Thursday, which is the 5th, I believe. To start really digging into the budget as a board.
Just one agenda item. I'd like to schedule another one. I mean, we can do it on the 5th, but I wanted to make sure that we had a second one in January so that we're just focusing on budget. We usually need a special meeting in January anyway.
Do we wanna just schedule that now? Since we're doing well on time today?
Yep, I'm gonna unplug so you don't see my whole calendar here. If I were better organized today, I'd have had 3 or 4 dates already. So our first board meeting of the month will be the 7th. We have negotiations on the 14th. So you may want to, and we will have to be scheduling negotiations for support staff as well, starting in January. But I think you would be safe if we picked a Thursday. And Laura, what would be the better week for you?
First week.
January
2nd?
2nd? Either one?
Can we do?
Do we have negotiations? What's this for? December 10th?
Yes,
What'd you say was on the 14th?
negotiations again, one of our second.
That's the 14th January though, right? Or is
Yes,
it- Yeah.
yes, the 14th is January.
So am I hearing we're gonna do budget Thursday night, which I know, and then when are we gonna do it next?
That's what we're scheduling right now.
I thought I heard January.
Yeah, the second budget meeting would be in January.
I think that's a little long, personally.
Say it again, Laura. No, absolutely not.
I feel like it'd be better to have one.
Another one later in December, so that is perfect.
What day is it?
That's
It's a Thursday.
Yes.
Yes.
So will that work for folks? Thursday, the 19th of December?
Maybe.
All right, let's do that.
I am at tentative.
Okay.
Thirty, so.
6:30 at MVU.
Yep, we can do that. We will we will confirm that. I think that's like concert week too.
I think that's a concert
There's
night.
concerts there.
It might be a concert night, actually.
Go back. I think he had it on
Yeah.
the.
Sports that night.
Yeah, the 18th is middle school and the 19th is high school.
Oh, can't make that then. I'm out on the 19th.
So that won't work. We won't get a quorum on that night.
They won't get a quorum this week.
Correct.
Yeah, well, high school, I can't make, because I have a high school student in the band.
And Eric, you wouldn't be able to
I'm
do,
probably doing both because Selena's doing
You've
high
got-
school as well.
yep. So, we don't want to meet Christmas week.
No.
That's why, I think that's why we said this.
January 3rd.
What about the week before?
What about the 12th?
I was just gonna say, what about the 12th?
We have something on the, that's too close? I mean, that's next week.
I lost my connection, so I'm struggling with my calendar. Let me see if I have
A board meeting on
December
the
12th, we already have something.
We could do the 11th, Wednesday, the 11th.
What about Wednesdays?
I can't do Wednesdays.
I can't do Wednesdays.
Well, I could do the 18th, I think.
The 18th, that's like.
18th.
That's a concert though, right?
That's a concert.
You know, what about making our
Friday.
December 17th board meeting, a budget meeting?
It's a long meeting already.
It is?
Yes, it is.
Facility meeting right now.
Yeah.
We have stormwater, we have, we rescheduled the performance contractors, and we have the facility people coming.
Yep.
Wow.
It's a big
Yeah,
meeting.
it's a big meeting already.
We need another meeting.
It's really.
We do.
I just-
Yeah, absolutely. Let's, what about Monday, the 16th?
Monday, the 16th.
Thursday, I'm not, there's not a draft coming on Thursday, we're talking, I mean, we're working
I can do
on the
that.
draft, but what we're trying to do is understand, get set some parameters.
I think I'm open.
Monday,
Get some facility information as well.
okay, so Laura, Monday, the 16th? The day before the regular board meeting? Dawn, can you do Mondays?
Sure.
All right, if that works, we can do Monday, the 16th.
I'm sorry, I can't do Mondays.
I'm sorry.
Bring the kids.
Yeah, if you want a 5 and an 8-year-old around, I can.
You might liven up this meeting.
It might make it go quicker.
Will it?
For the rest of us, maybe not for you.
Just be in the corner twitching.
Well,
I can, let me talk to my husband, he might be able to swing it.
I just am,
If Terry, do we know if Terry's in town?
I don't know.
Terry is not back until the 22nd of December, I think I saw him in the email.
Oh,
Yeah,
It's just if we wait until January, then we're gonna be having, we probably will have to have another special meeting and another special meeting because we're gonna run out of time.
Right.
I feel like,
if we can do it on the 16th, I think that gets the most people here. And, you know, if I had somebody good to babysit,
we'll figure it out.
I would do that for
See,
you.
the thing,
Oh, babysitters, I have at my house. If you wanna, I'll let them out.
the thing that concerns me about not doing another one in December is this office stuff. I mean, I think we're gonna have some discussions around the table before we finalize the budget. And if we wait till January, and then we have like 2 weeks to turn around, I don't think that's fair to you.
Absolutely.
I feel like it's
Laura
not
would
fair-
agree.
It's not fair to you guys.
Yeah.
This year, again, we're trying to bring, so Thursday, I'm not bringing a draft on Thursday. We are working on all the salary and benefit information, but we're looking for all the direction and have some real hard discussions maybe on Thursday. And then when you bring the first draft, it's gonna be much closer to where an actual first draft should really be, with good direction. So there shouldn't be a ton of work, but I agree with you, I want you to be able to really look at it and then have another conversation about it, not just have to move on it.
Yep.
So if we can do the 16th, that'd be great.
So, as of right now, our second special budget meeting will be at 6:30 on Monday, the 16th of December at MVU.
6:30, and let's say MVU unless there's a conflict that I'm unaware of.
I mean,
Could happen, central office is
That's
just,
what I was just
it
gonna
would
say.
be packed.
Yeah, right.
There's no air in there. We're working on it.
Are we moving executive session?
I do have something for executive session, yes.
Do we want to schedule a final one in January though?
Do
I'll
you?
need it finalized.
Yep.
It's different now, I don't have the same, constraints that we typically have.
This.
We'll have to get it out by a certain date.
Yep.
No, I know, but typically Swanton is really early.
Right, well, we aren't gonna have those because
There
they're
are
gonna be.
4 or 5 of them to get out.
Right. So I'm not at, I mean, it's not, because last year it was like the second week of January,
Right,
we had a
no, we're
deadline
not
for Swanton.
you're not gonna face that.
Right.
So our first board meeting is the 7th. And our next, we have negotiations, as I said, on the 14th of January. And our next next regular board meeting is the 21st, where typically you'd want to adopt by the 21st. And so it would be great to get an intermediate meeting in there, whether it's January 3rd or like Thursday the 9th.
Thursday
The
night.
9th.
That doesn't work for you. Let's do the 16th?
If we don't need it, we don't need it, but if it's, yeah.
If we can put it in
I
the,
think we're gonna need
I
it.
think so too, but
You can't meet tonight, or did you say you cannot meet tonight?
she cannot. So let's put it in for the 16th. I will work with Chris on the agenda for the 7th as well. We do have one thing scheduled, but we could also make that fairly budget heavy too, as well. So let's not discount that. Thank you, that helps a great deal.
where would that one potentially be, or that'll be announced?
Try to keep it and then.
Keep it announced.
Yeah, we'll
Try.
tentatively
I
MDU.
just think it's, I'll schedule, check with them and make sure that we can have them, but I think it's easier to have those special meetings there. So we're not wondering where it is.
Okay. Now that we've scheduled our special meetings, the next business is other business.
I just have something I'd like, talking about budgets. I'd like to make a proposal to the board and the administration, because, we had the difficult transition, all come together as one board. And I'd like to propose that, to make it more seamless for the voters, that I know that we are going to vote Australian ballot, but the voters are used to seeing the school boards at town meeting and in Swanton as well. I'd like to propose, because, and I'm speaking because I know I come to the Franklin meeting, that there's a lot of questions asked of the superintendent. Joyce gets a lot of questions. I'd like to have the voters have that opportunity at town meeting still. I realize because Franklin and Highgate meet at the same time that we'd have to split up the board probably to be able to do it, but I just wanted to see if there's any interest. Obviously, there would be no voting, it would just be giving the residents a opportunity to ask questions, how things are going, while we're at town meeting. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Don't people have the option to do that? I don't know how it is in Highgate or Franklin, but in Swanton, the board would be at the town and village presentation of their budget, and that's when.
That's what I'm proposing, that we would be there.
The informational meeting?
At the informational meetings?
Or at town meeting?
Swanton has it like Monday evening, right? And usually the Swanton School Board would be there.
Right.
I'm proposing that we would be there so we could, if they have questions for the Swanton School, or any of the schools really, but for the Swanton School, that we could be there to answer those questions.
One of the things we have to watch is it can't be part of the town meeting agenda. It could be, because we went through this in Fairfield. It can be before or during a break or after.
Did-
It can, but it can't be
How long
part.
ago was that though? Because I think that law changed where you can now discuss things that are on the ballot.
So it was a few years ago. So, we can certainly look into, it's just a matter of how. If the board wants to do a thing that's informing the communities,
I'm
we
just
can
throwing
make
it
it
out there.
happen.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of logistically the right way to do it.
When we prepared this current budget that we're in right now, what we did is we had 2 informational meetings regarding the budget, which we had very little attendance. But where I felt we got a lot of good feedback is we put together a informational video and spread it around everywhere we could, any which way we could. And I got a lot of good feedback from that people got a lot of information from it. It was a great way to get the information out to everyone. I'm not saying to do away with information meetings. I think we still need to do those too.
Right.
But I would definitely be willing to do that video again. I mean, I thought it was well worth the time.
Peter, how does your select board get the word to people and answer their questions? Is that right on town meeting day? Right here.
And that's what I was trying to clarify, is if you meant having an informational meeting in Franklin, and like you do in Swanton, and the board would go, or if you wanted the board to be at town meeting.
I wanted the board to be at town meeting, but for informational purposes.
Okay,
It
but not a
wouldn't.
separate informational meeting?
No,
in
it'd
the
be
place
at the same meeting, because my thinking was, you've already got an audience, they're already there. Because like Chris said, and I've gone to so many MVU informational meetings where 5 people show up. Whereas if we are already at town meeting, the people are already there and they can ask questions.
It's an important opportunity. That was the conversation we had in the other district. So I think it's an important question for us to research, think about, and then the board come together and talk about how they want to market, and promote the budget and get the information out there.
And like I said, if
I'm
the
not
board,
against it, I just want to work out the details. For example, I work as a small civil authority, but I'd be glad to come up. If Julie or somebody can work out the mechanics. We're going to have to, any chance to sell this budget.
I agree, because I know we've gotten feedback in Highgate that they would really like us to present something at town meeting day.
We do the TV thing too, right?
Oh, yeah.
15 or 16 or whatever.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's definitely how
Wanna
most
do it again?
people. Absolutely, you are. You're on.
Oh, absolutely.
See, perfect.
You all have such a nice job.
It was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
It's so good job. It's very fancy.
We're going to do it.
Yes, it was.
We need to do call-in, right?
Everywhere.
Yeah.
No,
We need to do call-in if you really.
it's not a call-in show.
I've done those call-ins.
Okay, on to superintendent's newsletter.
I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. We had a very positive experience, Dawn, I think you'd agree, at the School Board Association and Superintendent Joint Conference earlier in November. I think one of the things that for me was the most important information was when Tammy Colby, who's a researcher at UVM, she is leading the team that did the weighting study on how we recalculate, potentially, should the legislature decide to do it, equalize pupils. And Don, you were there as well. It was
Anybody
pretty
ever
good.
sees that she's presenting somewhere? She was really good. I mean, I could have sat there another hour, and I'm not a good sitter, for people talking, but it's going to be important. There are going to be winners and losers.
Absolutely.
And the sooner people figure out which one they're going to be, then they put their stake in the ground.
The original calculation, was probably done in the 80s and hasn't been looked at since, even though the legislation says that it should be looked at every once in a while. So she really spoke at length about the kinds of weights of cost, and some things, being targeted, some things in a block grant, and some things being reflected in equalized pupils. So that will be a very hot topic, I believe, in the legislative session. Another thing, since we are talking about facilities and performance contracting and things like that, it is on the docket for there to be legislation to support school construction aid. We are finalizing input from our facility directors so that I can, there's a survey that the Superintendent's Association is getting around projects that we've just finished or projects that we're needing to start, just to help with data in advocacy around that. I wanted to touch, please.
Just on that there, it's really going to come down to convincing a very small handful of legislators that this is becoming a crisis. Because there's always been support in the legislature in general, but there are a few people, I won't name them here, but there are a few people who kind of believe that your construction is something to determine locally and pay for. And that battle's been going on for at least 50 years, I don't know anymore. And so it's going to be important to follow that. And I know at PSPF, so we need to follow that. We also need to know where to spend the time. Because it's a part to your legislator, it's good. But until that legislator talks to 2 or 3 committee chairs, that will go anywhere. So that's going to be a big one. We don't know it's going to impact any of us right off because we're building. We're building in Highgate, right? And we just did it.
But it is important that the state understand how our current system is not really supporting the maintenance of and stewardship of our buildings across the state. And, there are other states that do other things a little differently, and perhaps we can look at that. So I wanted to make you aware that that is something that hopefully will be coming up, and we'll be watching that. And then I know last time we talked about the flag raising that happened in all 3 elementary schools, but it was such a gorgeous day. It was really snowy when we started and cold in Swanton, but by the time we got to Highgate, the sky was incredibly blue. All of our kids were amazing, and they attended so well, and Jeff was great at speaking about the importance to the Abnaki community of the flag raising and what it meant, and he thanked this board in each school site for their support of it. And the kids who do the drumming from Circle of Courage are just wonderful, and it was great to see tribal elders come. It just was a wonderful event, and many of our central office folks went to each one, and I really thank them for doing that and being present and showing how important our schools and this event was. So those are some things I wanted to highlight. And you have central office reports in there too. It's December, so it's a little bit abbreviated, but those were the highlights.
Okay, on to stormwater projects overview.
I will share that flyer because Jim's here. We have the MVU Holiday Festival and tree cutting and hay rides and maple baskets. It's a good opportunity to get some Christmas shopping done at MVU on December 7th from 10 to 4. I put in the plug. Did I? I'm sorry. So I do have a little one-pager for you. As we mentioned before, next month we're going to have, I'm going to forget his name, the folks, Andres, who is the designer of the stormwater projects. Laura, you're going to have to help me. That coffee is not working. Here we go. Those of you who have been on the Swanton board or the Highgate board have at least a little background here. And I have now just closed out. I have enough for everybody. Sorry, everybody. So, stormwater permitting in Franklin County, in the Missisquoi Valley, is a priority. in this state. We have 2 stormwater grant processes going on. Here it is. Swanton is a site that has more than 6 acres of impervious surface. They have designed, that grant has finished. We've met with the stormwater engineers, thank you, and regional planning, and Jason Butler, and that process is not connected to anything else. When it comes time to apply for the grants, it'll be applied for construction, and we're a high priority. It's not impacting any other projects, it's not impacting playground, and if we get the money, we can move ahead, right? And the stormwater permitting process is in a sort of comment period right now, so we're not sure when it's going to become effective, but we know it will be for Swanton. So when the money is awarded, we can move forward. The level of commitment there is really straightforward. It's all contingent on funding. And the state is prioritizing, the Department of Environmental Conservation and other funding agencies are prioritizing schools so that local taxpayers are not having to bear the cost of this. So we're anticipating either a very minimal match or no match. And the Highgate one is the same, except that the design for that involves the parking lot. So that project is very important. We've made it clear from the get-go that we are not going to have one interfere with the other. And they will speak at length about it at the next meeting this month. I keep wanting to say next month, but we're in December. But we wanted to make sure you had the background for those of you that have not been a part of these conversations. It's been a multi-year process because, as you know, how these grants come, you know, Highgate didn't get it the first time around. We did get it for design. They designed something that I think is the least expensive and most effective, and if everything aligns, will lengthen the life of your parking lot. But it is about, you know, how much we expect construction to be, how much, nothing can be guaranteed. So everything will impact how we move forward.
Mainly parking lots and roof areas. Is it mainly parking lots and the roof areas if they're concerned about stormwater?
In Highgate?
Oh, in Swampton, yeah, like either place.
It's all about the runoff. And
Impervious surface.
Yeah.
Right. The issue.
So it's a parking lot and roofs.
all, even crushed stone walkways, you know, so it's not just, it's not, yep, playgrounds, yep. So there will be more, obviously, from the engineers, but I wanted you to at least have some background on this, and where we're, so that you had a little prepping for it. Because it will be a big meeting next time.
Part of the issue is the state is still sort of working on the rules behind this the new 3-acre rules too, so that's kind of, every time you meet with these people, it sort of delays us a little bit, but there's some uncertainties, which is
frustrating.
Frustrating, yeah. We're trying to work through those. If they had rules that they were actually trying to operate under and they could guarantee money and what we needed to do, then it's an easier conversation.
Yes, and for Highgate, we are still doing research about what kind of permit we would need.
We just got a really good email about that.
Oh, did we? So that's good. All right. So I don't know if there are any questions now for me. I have learned a lot about stormwater and permitting, which is not something they teach you when you go to grad school for this. These are the things that you learn, but it's actually been an interesting process, and you know, we keep pushing back, you know, that we of course want to treat the water, and of course we want, because the Highgate parking lot is a great example of where that runoff is not just obviously impacting the environment and stormwater, but playground and the parking lot itself, right? So obviously, we want to move forward with something that's effective and we don't have to pay for. We like that, but it's about time.
Actually, full of water last meeting, I had there, I sat up my car, and I was out of water. Got my attention.
Okay, that's what I have.
I would, one of the pressures that we've put on this, at least from the Highgate standpoint, was the parking lot has to get done this summer. We can't go another year. I mean, we lost our plowing because of it, and there's people step in puddles, fall on ice, and it's so deteriorated that the bus company complains regularly, parents complain regularly. We can't put this off another year.
You've been lucky. Somebody hasn't hurt.
Yeah, people have got hurt.
Trips and falls. Yeah. Even though people are right on top of everything and, there's just, it has an impact.
Okay, future agenda items, performance contracting, stormwater designs. We're still looking into truancy.
Yep.
We have more policies to come, negotiations, budgets, and Northwest Technical Center updates.
Yep, they're coming in January to our first meeting at MBU with some students.
And then our future meeting dates, the next meeting will be December 5th. It's a special budget meeting at MBU at 6:30 in the library for negotiations and budget preparation. For the Professional Negotiations Committee, there will be a brief meeting before that at 6 p.m. The next regular MVSD school board meeting is December 17th at 6:30 at Highgate Elementary School. And then the professional negotiation meetings are December 10th, January 14th, January 28th, and February 11th, all at 6:30, all at MVU School Library.
Chris, I'd like to go back. When we do the Northwest Technical Center update, I'd like to have an update on how our programs at MVU that qualify as a satellite center.
I'll give that input to the MBU team. We also want to talk about budget at that meeting too.
Say something before you leave. I received some information today about tax rates and spending statewide today from the commissioner. I'm gonna just put it on the shared drive, which just came in this afternoon. If anybody's interested in looking at it before our meeting on Thursday. Pretty, not in layman's terms, really kind of walks you through where they anticipate the statewide spending to be. So I think it'd be good going into our Thursday meeting if we want to look at it.
And that'll be on the shared drive. Very good.
I do have something for executive session.
So we'll need a finding to go in executive session for contracts.
Let me ask a question first. Generally, are the December 10th, all those professional negotiations meetings start at 6:30 when we actually are negotiating with the association. But I guess I just want to throw out there, is anyone, typically we met like half an hour before and caucus before that, and wondering if Professional Negotiations Committee wants to do that, and can they do it, meet at 6 o'clock?
We are doing that first one, right?
That would be December 10th.
That's the December 10th, we're meeting at 6.
No, we're meeting December 5th
At
at
10,
6.
at 6, yeah, okay.
But then again, on December 10th, do we want to, I think at every meeting, do we want to start at 6 and have a caucus before we actually meet with the association?
I can make it for 6 on all those
I
meetings.
think it's a good use of our time.
I think it is a good idea.
Because I
Thank
reserved
you.
the conference room and meeting for that, and we will caucus in the library with the association, and they have their own room for their caucus earlier as well. Thank you.
Okay. So the professional negotiations, we will pre-meet to caucus at 6. All at MVU, at the conference room over by the front desk, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
For the executive session, personnel, I'd like to,
That's what the purpose is anyway, going, yep, is a personnel contract issue.
So I'll entertain a motion for contract, to discuss the contract and executive.
You may want to invite Jay Hartman in. I know he's thrilled.
In the motion, we'll invite Jay Hartman to join, and Julie.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of going into executive session, inviting Julie and Jay Hartman in, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
You're welcome.
We are in executive session as of 8:12.